All right, so here we are. We're picking up on slide 8. And just so you guys know everything we do, yes, Anthony? So if you go into, so let me pause for a sec. So if you go into, all right, so we got into transpose, find AutoSum. I'm trying to find which sheet we're in. We'll go on to the next slide here. So we'll see that. So one of the big things that we'll take advantage of in Excel is this whole concept of relative reference, absolute reference, and mixed reference. Has anybody ever worked with those before in Excel? Or so for the folks that, so I think Alex, George, and Brian at a minimum have played with this in CSI Ch1 But essentially what happens is that on a cell, if you put a dollar sign in front of it, it prevents that cell from like increasing. So if you go like, sometimes you want to keep a cell locked, and then sometimes you want it maybe just like the row to increment and not the column, and vice versa. So to do that, we'll use relative reference, absolute reference, and mixed references. So for example, if you have a formula and drag it down, then each number that's in there will increment by like 1 if you go down, and if you drag it right and left, it'll increase or decrease the row. So this is easier to see versus me explaining it. But for example, on this one, relative reference doesn't have any dollars in there. And if you look at the slide right here, you can see that if you have like this A1, $A, $1, that basically locks it down. And that's called absolute reference. So nothing will change if you move that cell down. I'm trying to make it easier to see. And then the other mode we have then is mixed reference. So in mixed reference, we could potentially put like a dollar sign in front of the C. So if that's the case, that'll hold the C constant. So if we went left or right, it keeps the C there. But if we go up and down, it makes it 2, 3, 3, 4, and so on. The converse of that is if we have the C open and then the 2 locked down, if we drug that right and left, the C would increment or decrement. But if you went up and down, the C, the 2 would be held constant. This is hugely vital to us as we do like these big autofills. And like I said, we'll be looking at things that are like 1,000 rows and like maybe like 100 columns. So you could type that individually, or you just autofill over and down. It's just like that. You'll be amazed. So charting. So a lot of times we'll do charting. So as creatures, we're very visual creatures here. So what we want to do is let's go into the calories worksheet. We'll go into calories here. Or actually, let me see. We wanted to do, let's do the actual profit here. So let's go into the basketball games. So, and in E2 here, we'll multiply this. So I see what we're doing now. If we wanted to find the actual profit, if we have $4 for the price, and that's a 50% profit, how can we get our actual profit in dollars? Anybody have thoughts on that? So we can do what? Anybody? So what about if we did like equals? So in cell E2, you're going to go equals, and you're just going to type, you can either type in C2 or you can just click the cell, C2 times D2. And if you multiply those out, you'll see that we have a profit of $2 now. Okay, so everybody see that? So we could keep typing that all the way down, but what we could do even faster and more efficiently is you can autofill. There's 2 ways to autofill. One way is to, does anybody remember how to get into autofill mode? We talked about this on Tuesday. George?
You go to the right, like
Okay, we go to the right.
When the little cross signs.
Yeah, so we're going to go to the bottom right. See that white crosshair? You're going to see it goes now into that little plus sign right there. If we do that and drag it down, it's going to auto-fill for us. That's pretty cool. So one way you can do it is manually. So you can kind of drag this down, and you can see that it took $2 times 0.25. Now another way that's even more efficient is if right here you just double-click and it'll send it down. That's like really cool. So that's auto-filling for us. Does everybody get that? Pretty cool. Everybody's good. Awesome. Yeah, so now if we look at this, how did this work? Well, in this cell, we typed C2 times D2. Since we went down, anybody have to guess what that next formula is going to be? It's not going to be C2 times D2. It's going to be what? C3 times D3. And the way it did that is because we had relative reference on there. Okay, so that's no dollar signs. What about if we did this with absolute reference and drug it down? It would be C2 times D2 down the whole list. It wouldn't change. Or if we had $2, it also wouldn't work because we locked those guys down. Sometimes we want to do that, sometimes we don't. It just depends on the situation. Cool stuff. All right, so let's go do a little bit of charting. And again, this is kind of like a crash course of Excel, but this will just kind of get us level set for the semester here. So let's go to the calorie sheet, and we're going to click on we're going to select, so again, this is a big, huge workbook, and down here are individual worksheets. So we're going to go to the calorie worksheet. All right, and then what we want to do is we want to select A1 to B15. So you're just going to highlight those. And then if we go down to the bottom right-hand corner here, you're going to see this quick analysis button. Bless you. So it's quick analysis. If you click on the quick analysis, left click, you're going to see there's all kind of things we can do, like formatting, charts, totals, tables, and spark lines. In this particular case, we do want to do charts. So we're going to go into charts. And then there's a clustered bar and a clustered column chart, and we want to do the clustered column. So select that clustered column guy here. Okay, and then if you want to change the fill color or size, you can kind of do all that. If you click down here, you could go into home and change your font size. You can change the colors and other items. So I'm just going to kind of drag this up in here. You can also do things that we'll learn about here in a bit with filtering, adding elements, and other items. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide, slide 12 here. All right, and then sometimes what we want to do is we want to freeze columns or freeze rows, and that's going to make it easier for us, especially if you have that 1,000-row table. You might want to always see the top row if you're scrolling down. So that kind of helps us out. So, let's say that we went into the basketball game sales again. Okay, so if we scroll down now, you can see that what's column A represent if we scroll down here. We really can't tell, right? So if we wanted to, we could scroll all the way back up again. And then you could select row 1 here. And if you go into view, you can see in if you go into the view tab at the top, if you go into the window group, you'll see the freeze panes control. And you click on that and you can say, hey, let's freeze panes, or let's freeze the top row, or let's freeze the first column. So if we say freeze the top row now if we scroll, that stays locked. So we can always see what our categories are. So that's kind of convenient, again, especially if you have, in this particular case, you got, what, 200 rows here. Okay, so that's kind of cool. Also, you can format on different numbers, different decimal places. So and we'll cover that throughout the semester. And then what about if we wanted to know, like which ones of these actual profits were bigger than the others? We can scroll through, but as persons, we're very pictorial. We like images. We can see things better with our eyes than we could read numbers and decipher that. So let's say that we wanted to look at these numbers relative to each other based on color, and for profits that are higher, we're going to make that deeper green color, for example. So let's grab from E2 all the way down to the end. So one way you can do that is just grab this and scroll down. Another way you could do this is just hit Control and hit the arrow down. Oh, sorry. It's Control Shift, I think. Let's see, Control Shift, and then go down. All right, so that grabs everything all in one shot. So that's kind of a shortcut. Okay, so that's pretty cool. But then anybody remember where we could find conditional formatting? Home tab, good, awesome. So if we go into Home tab, if we go into Styles group, then if we can do conditional formatting, we can do these color scales and pick any color you like. There's multiple ones out there. I usually use like green, the bottom left there, the green and white. I like that one best. But if you do this, now you can see the different color intensities, and look at the 4s. Those look a lot darker than other things, right? So that's the ones with the most profit. And pictorially, you could really, as a human, you could say, oh, these ones that are dark green are going to be our most profit ones. So it kind of does a gradient scale based on the profit relative to each other. So that's kind of cool. All right. So now we're going to start getting into a little bit deeper into the pool. We're in the 3-foot section. Now we're going to go to the 5-foot section. So we're going to do things like locating and pulling data. We're going to use things like match and index and offsets. These are like really crazy cool here. So let's go into the calories tab, or the calorie sheet. And then in B18, let's say that we wanted to match where hamburger was at. So these are kind of formulas that we're going to use that help us manipulate a bunch of data. And if we look at this function match, what this is going to do is this is going to match hamburger in the cell range A2 down to A15, and it's going to be starting at 0. So that's going to be starting at the A2. So that 0 represents, and at A2 to A15, where you want to start. So if we look at this, we're just going to, so I'll show you guys kind of how I have the course set up. If you go down here in the notes, you can just simply copy this, like over here in Excel, and you just copy it. And then most times this works. Every once in a while, if you have just like single parentheses, that you have to go over and fix it in Excel. But most times this works. So in B18, you're going to click into cell B18, and then up in the formula bar up here, you're just going to hit Control V. Oh, I didn't copy it. So copy, and then over here in B18, Control V. Why is it not working? Copy. Yeah, there it goes. Oh, there it goes right there. That problem with the formula.
Yeah, you put.
I typed it twice. Thank you, guys. This computer's kind of running wonky today. Match 0. There we go. But we should have got something in there. Did you guys get something?
6.
6. Yeah, you guys should have got 6.
I got true. Yeah.
All right. So we're in. So we're going to come over here. We're going to copy. So copying from PowerPoint. And we're coming over into here. I don't know why that guy's not copying. So was it copying for you guys? What am I doing? It's not doing it for you? Yes, definitely don't want to type all these guys out. So try right-clicking and just manually doing it. So copy.
You can try Control and C instead. The shortcut seems to circumvent some programs. It won't let you right-click.
Yeah, now I'm Control C'ing here. So copying.
Is it because you have the most column A highlighted before you did that?
Yeah, I don't know why it's.
It did that for me too. Just highlighted the whole column.
All right, so let me see here. So let me click out of this. Okay, and go down. All right, so I'm going to copy come over here to PowerPoint, copy. There it goes. Oh no, it didn't. Let me see something else here. Now, the only thing I could think of is that maybe because it's minimized here. Yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. Did anybody figure out the magical trick here?
Just click on B18.
Time that it took you to try and copy it up already.
So what'd you do, Ryan?
I said the time
Oh.
it took you guys to copy it up already.
Yeah, no, well, yeah, so I just want to figure this out on these machines because, like I said, this is a pretty small formula. We're going to be getting things that are like, that'll take you, yeah, literally miles wide. So let me try copying up here. So just say copying up there equals, yeah, I don't know why it's, all right, so let me try copying it here. And then just coming up in here. And then paste. Yeah, I have no idea. Well, let's just manually type it out, and I'll figure out how to do this. So let's just say equals match, and when you start typing it out, you just double click on that match, and then we're going to put in hamburger, comma, A2 to A15, 0, and we'll put there true. So, so that should have put 6. So anybody else get true or they got 6? Gosh, what's going on here? Wow, this is funky weird. All right, you should have got 6. So let's try the next one. Let's go try to index. So the key thing here is that what this index is going to do, that it's going to return a value that's in A1 to B15 in the 3rd row, 2nd column. Okay. So the easiest way to remember like the 3, 2 is Rick Cassoni. So just remember R, row, and then column. All right, so let's go find that index here. So let's see if this works. So just scrape that again. So you're just going to grab the index and not the period. If you grab the period, that's okay. You can just come up here. Let's see. So now it's working there. I have no idea. An index. So you guys should have got what? So third column. So if we look at A1, so if we go down, or third row, second column, what does that represent? What value does that represent? 0, right? And that's what it returned for us. Okay, so what if we play around with this? What would you expect if you did like the third value or third row or fourth row, second column? What do you guys think? 255, right? Good, awesome. All right, so we get 255. So that's kind of cool. And then offset, this gets like really crazy, really weird. And what this will do is this is going to be, this is going to go down 4 rows, including A1 and 0 columns. And then this will tell us what that offset is from that point of looking at A1. That's going to be our anchor point. And if we go down 4 rows and 0 columns, so this is really funky in the fact that it's most of these are 1 based, but this is 0 based, meaning that 0, 1, 2, 3 is going to go down 4. And if we go down 4, item, beer, bottled water, it's going to return chocolate bar on us. Okay, so if we grab this formula, offset, again, it's one of the few ones that are 0 based. I don't know why they did that, other than to confuse us. Now, if you throw that up in here, you get chocolate bar. Kind of cool stuff. Like I said, this is just kind of giving you the basics, and we'll see a lot more of this as we get into our big formulas. Let me try to do match one more time, just for grins, because it seems like it's working now. If for whatever reason it's still grabbing it over there. But maybe I'm grabbing this extra. Yeah, that's funky weird, man. I don't know. Magical. All right. So let's move on and let's go into small. Okay. So what do you guys have any ideas what the small will do for us here? If we did small B2 to B15, what do you think that will do? So small B2 to B15, 3. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
The third smallest number.
So it's going to grab the third smallest number in that range. Good, George. So there's times where we'll want to do that, maybe the second smallest or the fourth smallest. So just throw that into B2, or B21, sorry. So grab that formula. Yeah, I really don't know what's going on with that match block. That thing is just weird when you hit it. Right, so if we look at here, so you know, how long would it take you to come up with the third smallest if you had to do that? I mean, you could do it, sort it, and do it, but I mean, Excel is just that lickety split. So it really, truly is just absolutely amazing what this can do. Okay, so what about if we did the largest? So what would that do? So we did large B2 to B15, that would grab the third largest versus the third smallest. All right, so let's go into the baseball worksheet. Let's see, baseball worksheet. Actually, we're going to do the basketball worksheet here. So what we want to do here is we want to look up, let's say we wanted to get the calories for all these guys right here. Okay, so one way we can do that is we could do what? So any one of these, so if we look at calories, how can we get the calories of beer manually? What do you guys think? Does anybody have thoughts? So we have this calorie sheet. So what can we do? So we know the first thing we want to know, we want to look up the calories for what? Beer. So we can go over into the calorie sheet. Then we could see beer, and we should see what? 200, okay? So we can keep doing this, hamburger, back and forth, and everything else. Seems like it's gonna take a while to do 200 of these. My time's more valuable than that. So what can we do? Well, if we go into, if we scrape this formula right here, so down here in slide 14, that equals VLOOKUP. Let's grab that guy here. And what's this formula going to do for us? Well, we're going to use the VLOOKUP formula, and look what we're grabbing here. A2, what that's going to do is going to grab the word beer, and then we're going to go over to calories, and we're going to go look in that range. Wow, what are all those dollar signs up there for? I'm sorry? Locking it down, right? So what happens if we didn't do that? What would happen? If we go down, A2 becomes what? A3, and then A1, and if we see calories and an exclamation mark, that means go to the calories worksheet into that range, A1 to B15. And then what it's going to do is once it finds a word, it's going to return the item that's in the second column in calories, okay? And then false means it has to have an exact match, okay? So it must match. If it doesn't match something, it's going to return not applicable. So in this formula, if we had A2 and it went to A3, calories A1 would go to what? A1 would go to A2, and then B15 would go down to B16. So you always want to keep that the same consistent lookup table every time. So now if we have those dollar signs in front, as we drag it down, A2 will become A3, but the calories A1 to B15 stays calories A1 to B15. It locks it in place, okay? So let's try doing it. So let's enter this formula. Okay, 200. Wow, that's pretty amazing. Guess what we can do? We can retype that all out every single time, or autofill, right? So go into the calories, go into F2, go down to the bottom right-hand corner, blammo, look at that. So you just looked up 200 just like that. How long will that take you to go back and forth to each sheet? And would you maybe make an error too? I might. Okay, so this is like pretty amazing. This is like, we're just scratching the surface of this now. It's just literally, we're not even like, I can't. We have to do this chapter, just kind of get the basics. We have to do one statistical chapter, but then we'll get into the whole wine thing. You guys are gonna be like, wow, this is craziness. I can't wait to show you guys. All right, so any questions on VLOOKUP? Okay, so it's, again, it's going to vertically look things up. And if we look at the calories, it's looking up, and these guys right here, so it's looking up from A to, now notice on this one we went A2 to B15. We don't include the headers, item, and calories. We just wanted to include the items that we wanted to look up, like beer down through soda, and the applicable calories. So again, that looked up A2 beer. It went over to calories and it saw beer, and then returned the item in not the first column, but the second column, which was 200. That's what that's doing. Question, George? Got it? You're good? All right, perfect. All right, cool. All right, so sorting and filtering. Sorting and filtering. So you could convert like a standard range into something like a table. Once on the table, you could do filtering and sorting. We're going to use this to look up the filter and sort things out, because we're going to take data, we're going to do our manipulations, and then we want to look at the analysis. So a lot of times we'll use filtering to go do that. So if we go into the basketball sheet here, so let's go into basketball, and we're going to do A1. And then we're going to go Control-Shift down. So it's going to take us all the way over. And then we can right arrow over. And that gives us all of our things right there. So that's kind of like a cool shortcut to go down and go over all that whole way. Okay, so now that we have this selected, we can go into the data tab. So if we go over into the data tab up here at the top, we go into sort and filter. Okay, so sort and filter, and then we're going to go into filter. Okay, and you notice that what happened when you did that? Anybody notice what happened on our header row? So like items, so we have our little arrows in here, right? So this will allow us to do things and filter things out almost like a database. So if you wanted to, like in items, you can click that down arrow, and you could do things like, hey, sort this row from ascending, descending. Instead of looking at everything, maybe you just wanted to look at the first three: beer, bottled water, and chocolate bar. So if you want to do that, you can just uncheck the select all and just say beer, bottled water, chocolate bar, and click OK. And then you're going to notice that now all we have on here is beer, chocolate bars, and water. And notice that the arrow is now what? You see like a little filter, like a little funnel. So it's kind of like a funnel saying, hey, this is being filtered right here. Okay. And to take the filter off, you can either select it right here and do clear filter, or up here at the top in the sort and filter, you can just click the filter and it returns everything back to normal. So that's a really cool way for us to be able to look at items and sort through. All right, so let's go over to pivot tables. This is one of the coolest things out there. I mean, this is just like awesomeness. And everybody's intimidated and terrified of pivot tables. You guys in this class being able to say you did pivot tables, you'll be gods wherever you work. I mean, literally, everybody's terrified of pivot tables. You will be a water walker doing pivot tables. All right, so let's go into the baseball game sheet, basketball game sheet here. And then we're going to select the cells A1 to F200. Okay, so you can go click on this. So now we just grabbed everything, click A1. Okay. And then to insert a pivot table, what we're going to do is you're going to go into insert, so home, file, home, insert. And then over here on the left-hand side under tables, we're going to say do pivot table. Okay. And then it's going to, so you're going to validate the range. This is saying, hey, in the sheet, basketball game sales. So that's going to be what's to the left of the exclamation mark. In cells A1 down to F200. That looks good. That includes everything in here. We want to either put it in a new worksheet or an existing worksheet. So let's put it into a new worksheet, and let's click OK. And you notice down here we have sheet 1. So let's double click on sheet 1 here, and we'll call this pivot table. Pivot table. All right. For pivots. Okay. And then let's move this to the right of calories. So how do we move a pivot table over? Or how do we move the sheet? Does anybody know? So you can either click it and drag it, or you can right click and move or copy. But the easiest way is if you left click it, you'll see that it has this little arrow thingy. And now if you just move it over, and let's say we wanted it to the right of calories, you do it so that little arrow moves over, and then now you have pivot or pivot table to the right of calories. Okay? So let's say we wanted to include in our table items and prices. So if you come over here to the pivot table fields box, just click on item and then click on price. And you'll see right now that this automatically puts this, since these are values, it's going to put it over here in values for the sum of price. And you have the sum of all the beer. You have the sum of all the water. You can also change the field settings in here. If you click down in the this little arrow down here at the sum of price. You could change value field settings so that you do the count, the average, the max, the min. So there's all kind of cool, crazy stuff we can do here. But doing this is going to value it up. So guess how much we made on all of our sales of everything. So this is going to take in the quantities. So this is saying that, hey, we made $563 based on the sum of all the prices. So this pivot table will do things, it kind of like slices and dices and move things horizontally and vertically and kind of transposes them. So it's all really cool stuff here. All right, so questions on pivot tables. But we'll get much more into pivot tables, so they'll be near and dear to our hearts. And let's say that, let's play with this a little bit more. Let's check category. Okay, and we have category in rows, but let's say we wanted to look at these categories in columns. Okay, so again, I mean, in these pivot tables, I mean, there's just like a gazillion ways literally to do things. So down here at the bottom where it took it into rows, just left click and drag that into columns. Now look at that. Under beverages, we know that the price that we made on all the beverages was $155.50. Candy was $80, and we still get our same price, but now it's kind of all broken out into the categories. I mean, this is just like, just way cool, amazing stuff. Okay, let's say we wanted to, now that we have this, let's say that we wanted to grab this and, you know, paste it into a different sheet. Okay, so let's say that these guys want us to uncheck category, so we'll uncheck category. And if we do, it takes us back to our original one. So let's grab A3 down to B17. And we're going to copy this. And then let's go into another sheet here. So let's go into revenue by item. And then let's go into cell A1. But this time you're not going to paste, because if you paste, it's going to take the formulas over. A lot of times in this class, what we want to do is we just want to grab the values. We'll manipulate it and just grab the values. So to do that, if you put the cursor in A1, you hit the down arrow here, paste, then you can see that you have all these different functions. And on this middle section, you can see paste values. And if you click on this, now if you go into a cell, it's not going to have the formula, it's just going to have the value that it was there. Because if you move the formulas over, it's going to change everything based on where it's at relative to everything. So a lot of times we're going to want to do the paste values in here. Okay. Array formulas. This is like, array formulas are amazing. So you take like in math, you have like the different arrays, and a lot of times we'll do something called sum product. We'll take like one array and multiply it by another array, and then it'll like sum everything up for us. Again, something that would take forever and ever and ever to do, but you know, this will actually do it for us. So what we want to do is we want to take B2 to B15, this amount, so the sum of these prices, and we want to basically get we want to calculate so the coach wants like a kickback for everything we sell here. So in D2, what we want to do is we want to multiply the products by the fee schedule B2 to O2. So if we look at this, if we're doing a sum product, and if one item is a column and another item is, so if we look at this, we can see that here we're going to do the sum product of B2 to B15, and then if we go over into B schedule, into the fee schedule, we can see that here's the kickback that the coach gets. So did you notice that in the revenue item, those are what, vertical or horizontal? So in the revenue by item, so these like B2 down to B15 is what, up and down. So that's vertical, but in the fee schedule, it's what, horizontal. So anytime you're doing something where you have something that's horizontal times something vertical, you're going to have to use, you're going to have to put that into and make it calculate as an array formula. So what we're going to do here is, so I'm setting you guys up for error 2, by the way. So let's grab this in D2. So grab that formula right here on slide 18. And then we're going to go into revenue by item, and we're going to go to the cell D2. We're going to paste this in. Okay. Darn, we got an error. Okay, so we have an error. And the reason we have an error is because one was horizontal, or one was vertical, and one was horizontal. Man, if only there was a way to make our horizontal items vertical. Does anybody remember what that was? We talked about it on Tuesday. Transpose, right? Good, George. So transpose. So let's copy this next formula here, and let's transpose this guy. Okay, so we're going to grab this, and we're going to go into D2, and we're going to repaste it in here. No, or not. We got that funky thing again. Look. All right, so I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to copy. You guys getting a weird thing happening again?
Yeah. It's just giving us the error because it's not a array.
No, I'm having issues copying. I don't know what. Oh, maybe I have an extra space here. I'm copying. Why do I keep doing that? Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Is anybody else getting an error or where they're trying to paste it over and it's not working? I don't know why it's doing that.
Oh, wait a second.
All right, so I got it to work finally. All right, did you get it to work, Alex? All right, so let me see.
Yeah, you got it. It's just that.
Oh yeah, okay, you got the value. Okay, yeah, so you should get the value thing again. Does everybody get the value thing again?
Yeah.
You got it? You got it, Rick?
Yeah.
You got it, Anthony?
Yeah.
Negative?
I just went back. This was control. I don't remember this.
Oh, yeah, put them in brackets.
Oh, you just, okay, yeah, so what you want to do is just grab that guy, you're going to copy. Let's see, click OK. All right, so just copy this. Copy, Control C. We're going to go over here to revenue by item. Okay, and right here, what we're going to do is we're going to paste just the value. So we come in here and paste value. There you go. And it should do this. All right, cool. All right, so we still have an error. Okay, the reason we have an error is that this needs to be into an array formula. Okay, because we're using transpose, we have to calculate this as an array. The way to tell Excel, how to calculate this as an array is we'll actually go back into D2. We're going to put our cursor back up here, and we're going to hit Control, Shift, and Enter. If you have a Mac at home, you hit the Command, the little butterfly button, and then hit Return. Okay, so if you have a Mac, you just do Command Return. Here, you do Control, Shift, Enter. Then what you do, you'll notice that we've got some new things around here on our sum product. We just typed in equals sum product before. Now what do you guys see up there in the formula bar? See those little braces? So anytime you see the braces, that means it shifted it into an array calculation formula. So what this did is it took the item in B2 times the transpose profit on fee schedule, multiplied them together, and went down the list and then added them all up together, which is actually really cool. And we'll be doing this by, like I said, with hundreds of rows, and Excel just does it like that. It just truly is. I mean, you kind of get a sense for what our computers can do today when you start looking at things like this and just how fast it is. So it's pretty crazy, insane. So does that make sense? How's everybody doing? How you doing, Anthony? You get it? Yep. Let's see. Check it out. Oh yeah, so it looks like you copy. Okay, so that's good. Okay, so we have that. So it didn't work right now, and you got the value. But now what you want to do is you want to do Control Shift and then hit Enter, and then that created. So when you did that, now you see like these little curly braces. They made it into an array formula now. Yeah, cool. So everybody does that kind of make sense? Everybody get that? So again, what this formula is doing is it's taking what's in B2 on this sheet, beer, and then it goes over into the fee schedule, and it multiplies it by B2 there. But remember, these are transposed. So the next time on the next calculation, so it takes B2 times B2. On the next one, it takes this B3 from revenue item, and it comes over to fee schedule, and it multiplies it by D2. Remember, these are transposed, so it kind of like did it and moved them down because they have to be, for this to work, they have to both be columns. You can't have one column and one row. You can't do it that way. You have to have both columns or both rows for this to work in the sum product. Because we did the transpose, it forces sum product to have to do it as an array formula. Okay, and to do anything into an array formula, you have to do the Control Shift Enter, or just the Command Return if you're on a Mac. Clear as mud. So like I said, we'll be doing these over the whole semester, so you guys will have plenty of time. So it's like kind of like, oh wow, this is kind of crazy stuff. Yeah, when I started, figuring this class out last year, I'm like, wow, there's like things in Excel that I didn't even know myself. So I'm trust me, it pushed my limits, and I've been looking at this for a year, so I'm kind of getting used to everything now. So I'm gonna tell you, could you imagine like going into your employer with like all these Excel, and we're just starting. I mean, we're just getting this party started here. All right, so let's go on to the next sheet. What are we going to learn next? I think we're doing solver. So solver is something that we're going to use a lot of times to calculate like a minimum and a maximum. So this is going to be linear programming, or you can do linear programming. It's really quick and it's guaranteed to give you a solution. If you have anything where you have like exponentials or logic, you can't use linear. You actually have to use things like evolutionary, which tries to model it out, not as fast and not as accurate. So let's go into calories. And actually, I already made it for you, calorie solver. So let's go into calorie solver. Okay. So I already calculate this. And a lot of times the book will say, make a copy of a sheet and go label it in order to make class like more efficient and go faster. I just did those for you guys in the future chapters. All you have to do is go in and unhide them. So just trying to make it efficient. More like I want to focus on the data analytics versus the Excel part of it for the course. So what we want to do here is we want to actually come up with the how many items it takes us to get to, I think it's like 1,800 calories or something like that. So so what we want to do is we want to find the minimum or the maximum amount of items we can get. So the minimum amount of items we need to get up to 2,400 calories. So Solver is going to actually do that for us. So what we do is if we go into data, okay, we see that Open Solver is installed. So anytime you get beyond like 200 elements, we can't use Solver in Excel. We have to use this product called Open Solver, and that's free. And if you guys can install that at home if you want to, I recommend. It's kind of cool. But we don't have Solver. So so these computers, every time you use Solver, we're going to have to do this. But at home, once you set up Solver once, it's all set. So to load up Solver, what we do is if you go into File, and if you go into Options, and then if you go into Add-ons down there towards the bottom, you're going to see Excel Add-ons, and we're going to hit Go down at the bottom there, Manage Excel Add-ons. And then you'll see that, oh, the Solver add-in is in there. Oh, I'm sorry. So, it's under Analyze. I was looking in the wrong spot. So Solver is there. It's under the Analyze tab, so it already is in there for us. But at home, the first time you do this, if you have Excel at home, the first time you do it, you'll have to go load up Solver doing that. So it's just a one-time shot, and you're good. All right. So again, Solver is going to be based on an optimization model. Many times you're going to look at minimum and maximums or a certain value. All right, so label C1, how many? So what we need to do here is we need to provide Solver the range that it can make decisions on. So if we look at this, this is going to be, what we want to do here is we want to multiply what's in B2 times values in C2 to get to the minimum amount to get to 2,400. I mean, this would probably take you guys a couple of hours to figure this out. And we're going to see just how fast Solver can do this. Okay? So in C16, we want to do the total items here. So the total items, this is just going to be the sum of what Solver is going to put in C2 to C15. Okay? So to do this, if we go into Home, if you go over into that little calculus symbol over there under Editing, if you click on that down arrow, you can see sum, and that's like the 5 most common formulas we use: sum, average, count, min, and max. So if you click on this, it should, it'll put sum, and since we don't have any values in there, we'll actually have to highlight C2 down to C15. And you click Enter. Oh, C2 down to C15. Sorry, I went too far. Okay, if you did what I did, just move it up one. C15. All right, so it says 0, and that makes sense because we don't have any items in here. And then the total calories, what this is going to be is the total calories is going to be the value of what is in B2 times what's in C2 and added together. So just like before, we use sum product. Now in this case, we have a column and a column, so we don't have to do the array function this time. So over here in C17, if you go into the PowerPoint, you can just scrape this formula right here. And then in C17, I don't know why I'm getting true again. Oh, that is just so funky. Did anybody else get true, or did yours guys' work? Yeah, there's something. Like this Excel is like off today or something. All right. So I'm glad your guys' stations are working. That's good. There it goes. All right, so again, we're gonna take, so what we wanna do is we wanna set up solver to come up with the number of items to get to 2,400. That's like kind of the minimum number of items to get to 2,400. So now if we go into solver now, so we're gonna launch solver, and to launch that, we're gonna go into data, and then we're gonna hit solver right here, and under the so data tab, analysis group, and we're gonna hit solver. So on this one, we want to, our objective is going to be setting C16 to the minimum value. So our objective is we want to buy the least amount of items to get to 2,400 calories. So our objective is minimal total items to do that. So if we go into the objective, it should be C16. If you don't see C16 in there, just highlight that and then just click on C16 and it'll pop it in there. And then we'll see the minimum. Sometimes we want to maximize profit, sometimes we want to minimize items. In this particular case, we're minimizing, so make sure it says 2 and you have the minimum block checked. All right, and then, all right, so were the constraints already in there for you guys? Darn. All right, so I did the example, I didn't clear out the constraints. All right, so go clear those out. I just want to walk us through this one. So let's go, so zero out these by changing cells. That's no fun. So I'm just going to walk you guys through it like I didn't have it in there before, so I've got to go fix this Excel so it doesn't pre-fill things in. So by changing variable cells, so our variable cells in this case are going to be C2 to C15. So now just highlight C2 to C15. Okay. And then I'm going to have, so blow out those constraints too, so delete both those guys. I want to walk us through that, just so you guys get a feel for doing it in class. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to go into and click under constraints. We're going to hit add. Okay, so one of the things we want to do is we want to say, click on the cell reference is going to be C17, so click on that cell. And then on the middle section, you're going to hit that drop down arrow and say equals 2,400. So we say we want to do the minimum amount of items to get to 2,400. You can click OK, and that'll take you back into the screen again. But if you're going to add multiple items, you can just hit add. And we don't necessarily want to buy 1.37 candy bars. So what we can do is we can put a constraint on these items to say it has to be whole numbers or integers. Okay. So what we're going to do is you're going to highlight C2 to C15. That's going to be the range. And then on the middle one, you're going to click the down arrow and you're just going to say int. And once you do that, it'll automatically pop over integer in the right-hand side. Then we click OK. Okay, so now we're setting C16 to a minimum value, by changing C2 to C15, and our constraints are that the total number of calories has to be 2,400, and that the values from C2 to C15 has to be integers or whole numbers. So now all we have to do is hit solve, blammo, and then if we look, this is pretty amazing. So this set it up so that I only had to buy 5 items. Is that what you guys had too? Anybody get anything different? So we all should have had the same here, 5 items. And then what did we buy? Well, we bought 1 licorice rope, 2 nachos, and 2 popcorns. So how long would it have taken you guys to do that?
Like 15 minutes.
Probably 15 minutes or something like that. Again, these are very small examples. Wait till we get to 1,000 times like 300, and then you have like 3,000 cells that you're looking at, and this will do it. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. Sometimes in class we'll have breaks where they're sitting there, it's like you'll hear the project, it'll take like 5 or 6 minutes. We'll even dial it down sometimes just because it'll crank up. So then if you like this value, you can just say OK, or if you don't like it, what you can do is you could say restore it to values. If you wanted to do a report, you can hit answer, and then that'll create a report for you. In this case, we can just hit OK, and that'll lock it in. So again, we were able to use the linear formula because we didn't have any square roots or logs or exponentials. So we're able to use linear programming. Linear programming is super duper fast. Always gets us a solution. Down the road, we'll have to use OpenSolver. The good news is it's already loaded up here for us. So, but you might want to load that up at home. So, all right. So let's do this. Let's save this file. And guess what? Assignment 1, we just did in class. Yay. So I think there's going to be kind of like minimal. There's not going to be, I mean, we're doing a lot of our work in class. You guys will do quizzes and other things, but they're all open book and you guys can work with each other. So grab this, save this, and then go into Wirely Engage. And what you'll want to do, Roy, is just maybe like save this in your Google Drive on there and then work it out with Wirely. And then, or yeah, whatever, yeah, whichever way you do it, yeah, that's fine. So do that, and see if you can work that out with Wirely, and then post that. So you guys are going to post this assignment in Wirely Engage. So go into, if you click on the Chapter 1 assignment, that should, and then you're going to click the Load 1 Chapter 1 assignment in a new window. And then that'll bring you over to the course. And then you'll click on the Chapter 1 Excel assignments. And then you're going to, hopefully you guys will see something to load it up.
So you're here and then.
Yeah, so yeah, there you go. And submission and go, yeah, perfect, good. Good, awesome. All right, cool. So we're a little bit ahead. So what we'll do is on Tuesday, we'll do the quiz in class together, and then we'll go start on Chapter 2 on statistics. So that'll kind of give us. Yeah, we just have to get through. Statistics, then we'll get like a really cool, fun chapter. Then we'll do a little bit of probability, and then we'll get into another fun chapter. And from that out, it's all data analytics and just built-in statistics of what's in Excel. Cool. All right, guys. Well, thanks for an most awesome class. And if you want, you kind of go through these if you want over the weekend. If you have any questions, we can revisit this on Tuesday. We'll have a little bit of time. All right. Awesomeness.